We call that perpetual virginity. Plus, on the cross, Jesus' final moments, Jesus called John to take care of his mother. If Jesus had indeed brothers as we know it, as we hear it, if we interpret these brothers as real brothers as we know it, it's unthinkable in Jewish mind to entrust your mother to other people other than your own brothers, younger brothers. It's unthinkable. It's not acceptable in Jewish tradition. We have been told in the Bible from day one that Jesus was a law-abiding Jewish person, right? He abides. He had circumcision on day 8, right? And this bar mitzvah and all this. He went through all these Jewish rituals. So it's unthinkable that he would entrust his own mother. And how can you know that the word of a dying person is very trustworthy? Do you know that? Have you heard of any man dying in a few minutes who would still lie? The only one, it is quite amazing, correct me if I'm wrong, John W. Booth. Pussy.
The one who killed.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I was around when Lincoln was assassinated. and I read in the paper, Mr. Booth was saying, this was before his execution. You know what he said? It's all right, you can execute me now, because when I see him in the afterlife, I will kill him again. That's what he said. It's quite mind-blowing, because typically a person who is about to die would be very honest, very sincere, and would tell only the truth. But maybe he was sincere in what he was saying. You understand? So when Jesus dying on the cross, he knew he was about ready to give his life. Would entrust his own mother to someone other than his own blood brothers. It's unthinkable. So again, that means he had no brothers. You follow? Jesus had no siblings, older or younger. None. Is that clear? These people are his cousins. Yes, sir.
I'm not really a Greek as the term brothers. Not like male siblings, but extended family members. So when Christ is told, your mother and brothers are without, she's out there and she's got Cousin Bill, she's got Uncle Tom, she's got Aunt Mary. Yeah, they're all family members, so they are brothers. It's like, interestingly enough, let's make that neat.
Very well. Another thing, in the Bible, remember Jesus was speaking in the house, and he got a word from outside. Your mother and your brothers and sisters are waiting for you outside. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then Jesus made a comment. And who are my brothers and my mother and my sister? Anyone, he says. Anyone who does the will of my Father is my mother, my sister, and my brother. You see that? So that's not in any way indicative of he had younger or older siblings. Probably no older, no chance, because he's the firstborn. So if any, these should be his younger siblings, which cannot be. Cannot be. Okay? There's this other Mary. There's a lot more information here. I love this because I had the Catholic Encyclopedia, the writings of the early church fathers, and the many saints, and those who lived during the time, who were eyewitnesses to all this. They were eyewitnesses. It says, Jesus was not an only child living a rather sheltered life until he received a call at the baptism of John and performed the first sign of Messiahship at the marriage of Cana. So Jesus was very active in the extended family. Like Joseph's brother. Some writings says Clopas, but you know, don't forget that in the early church, in the very early days, not very many would write much down. They didn't have books like what we do have now. They didn't have birth certificate. They didn't have birth certificate like what we have now. So now you can say, show us the long form birth certificate. No. At that time, you go by your ancestry, your ancestor. So if your ancestor is this man, all of you underneath, you associate your name with that one ancestor. That's why during the census ordered by Caesar Augustus, what happened was, you have to go to your ancestry. And they had to go to, where did they have to go? To Bethlehem. To Bethlehem. Because that's where their site is, site of David. Remember, Saint Joseph was the descendant of King David. So they had to go to Bethlehem, which was the site of David's camp. Remember, that's why Jesus was born in the little town of Bethlehem. Again, perpetual virginity of Mary. The virginity vow. I know some of you have vowed virginity here. And I commend you for that. An extra for you. Something about when Jesus was actually born. And this is based on Scripture. It's an extra. Birth of Jesus. Jesus was born in the year 3 or 2 BC. Either April or May. Jesus was not born in December. Jesus was born either April or May. And the year was either 3 or 2 BC. We just couldn't beat it down. I have read quite a lot already. They just couldn't beat it down. And based on Scripture. So, we're saying there's no year 1 BC. There's also no year 0. There's no year. There's nothing you would see that occurred during year 1 BC or during the year 0. In other words, what does BC mean?
Before Christ.
Before Christ. And AD?
After Christ.
Huh?
After Christ.
No.
AD
AD means Anno Domini, the year of the Lord. So in other words, 3 or 2 BC, there's no 1 BC, there's no 0, year 0. It was 1 AD after that. So after this time, when he was born, it became year 1, year 2, year 3. Now it's 2011 years. You follow? And what is the basis for this? In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be enrolled. And this was the time when Quirinius was governor of Syria. This was in the Bible. Both Matthew and Luke record him as being born during the reign of Herod the Great. Jesus was born during Herod was around, right? And it was Herod who reigned during the time of Augustus. But Herod died during that reign. If Herod died during that reign, so that's why they pinned down the year. Now, just so you know, Caesar Augustus, is the nephew of Julius Caesar. You know, I'm quite a lover of the Roman Empire. I have a collection of all this about the Roman Empire. You see the relationships. So, Augustus Caesar is the nephew of Julius Caesar, who was assassinated, you know that, by Brutus and some of his cohorts. And when was he assassinated? 44 BC. Caesar Augustus was assassinated in 44 BC. It's interesting, but the name Augustus, that's why we have the month called August. Now his other name is Octavius. You know that? Hence the name October. But it's the same person. Augustus and Octavius, the same person. In 43 BC, the Senate awarded him the title of Imperator. Imperator in Romans, it's actually in English, it's emperor. So, officially, it was Augustus Caesar who was the first emperor of Rome. Have you seen Cleopatra? Cleopatra is a female name. Do you know what is the male equivalent of Cleopatra?
Cleopatra.
Huh? Cleopatros. Yeah. That's the male equivalent of Cleopatra. Cleopatros with S. So that's a good name if you have a child. Cleopatros.
Cleopatra. Spare me.
Do you know what happened to her and Mark Antony?
I fell in love.
Yeah. They actually killed themselves. They committed suicide.
Oh.
Yeah. Especially during that time. That was 30 BC. That was before Jesus Christ. So, Augustus Caesar, who commanded this enrollment, he decreed that this enrollment must have started his reign in 44-43 BC, up to 30 or 31 BC. And he became emperor until 14 AD. That's how they pinned this year down, because of these dates that they have established. You see, very interesting. Now the Herod. See you next segment.